Hello, colleagues, and welcome to another episode of DINCast, where I'm delighted to be joined today by Richard Asomugha, who is an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, and serious investor. Looking at the artwork behind him on his wall there. So, Richard, welcome along today.
Appreciate it. It's good to be here. It's good to see
Yeah.
you.
It's been a sort of a while since we sort of met when you first sort of came and spoke to some social housing leaders. So I'm really fascinated to see how your personal journey has sort of evolved over the last few years. Because as I say, everywhere I look, there are here with Richard sort of signs and things about. But for those people who've not heard of you, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, your backstory, and what you now do?
All right. So my name is Richard Asomugha. I'm age 25. Fell in love with motivational speaking because it was one of the few things that in my darkest times in life, was something that the personal development that I got, that really inspired me. And analyzing my skill set at that time, at that point, and listening to the information, I realized, okay, I've got a passion for connecting with people. I love speaking. This message has helped and changed my life. And I can actually do this. And this came from losing my basketball scholarship. And basketball was my way out, taking care of my parents. We were illegal immigrants when we came to the country. We were sleeping on the floor in one room next to the fridge, me and my father and my brother in one room with 9 other people, 2 different families. And we experienced that for a long, long time. No benefits, no school meals. It was really terrible. So listening to these motivational principles really impacted my life. And when I decided to take massive action, we started doing motivational school tours, going to school, speaking to kids. We've worked with the biggest organizations from Barclays, Red Bull, Virgin, KPMG. I would say my passion right now when I go to the motivational speaking is really impacting the younger generation and just helping them to understand the power of their minds earlier, much earlier than I did, how to overcome disappointments. Because you can imagine sleeping on the floor next to the fridge. It was crazy.
And so that must have been really sort of stressful time for not just you, but for your whole family around you. So how did you sort of cope and manage to shape, I suppose, your personality to what it is now in those difficult circumstances? How did you get up on a morning?
Yes, great question. First thing that helped me out, I would say role models. I had powerful role models that were in my circumference. The captain of my basketball team was also the head boy of my secondary school, and we were a top premier basketball team. So during my school lunchtime break times, I was always hanging out with him. And he spoke to me about what a mentor is. He started a business in year 11 called Young Black Entrepreneurs, and he made me the marketing executive. Because of him, I went to school trips to JP Morgan, and I met my first mentor there, a guy called Iqbal Wahab. And I only got him to be my mentor because the guy who I was with, he told me what a mentor is. Second thing, I realized, never live in your reality, always act out of your imagination. I always had a huge imagination, regardless of when I was sleeping next to the floor and water would be leaking out in the nighttime, going on my bed, not even my bed, on the mattress. I was always living in a different reality. So those 2 things, acting out of my imagination and having the right positive role models, really helped me to not really feel like a victim in my situation.
And obviously, the basketball scholarship was very, very important to you. So
Yeah.
when you lost that, how did that sort of make you feel, and how did you work to get over the loss?
Firstly, I actually prayed to God because I remember praying when I wanted to get tall. I was like, God, make me tall, please. I remember praying. If you want to get tall, the secret is pray when you're in the shower. All your dreams will come true, right? I remember praying. I'm like, God, I'm 6'6", right? I'm 6'4" at that time. I'm like, why is this happening to me? Like, what's the purpose? And then I think everything all changed when someone said, wow, Richard, you're so tall. When you speak on the stage, you have massive presence. And I think that compensated for me and helped me see things differently as well.
And obviously, you're still very, very young to do what you're doing, but let's take you back to that first gig where you stood up in front of an audience and did your first sort of motivational speech. What was going through your mind at that point in time? How did you feel? How did you get the energy to go on stage and perform?
Firstly, I would say gratitude. I was just extremely grateful for the fact that I could do what I said I wanted to do. many people take for granted the elementary stages of their vision, of their dream. And I realized that I am only competing with myself and I'm only creating what I want to see in this world. So I was extremely grateful. But I also realized that I had a unique story and I had a way to share it. And my presence is quite unique, right? And that was the most important thing, just being grateful that I could write something down on paper and being given the opportunity to express myself. But also, making sure that the crowd and the audience left there with something powerful and positive, because my motivational speaking career came from when I was really depressed. I was in a really depressed state. Like I said, I lost my basketball scholarship. I was smoking weed every single day. I was really, really lost, right? So I had to really listen to a lot of information. I'm like, wow, this is profound. I'll tell you two things that changed my life. Jim Rohn said, you can have anything in life that you want if you help others get what they want, and you can become more by picking up new skills. Things like that blew my mind away. I never heard that before. So when I heard that, I had to start sharing stuff like that.
And in terms of sort of how you build up your stories, because obviously, at 25, you've achieved and done so much already, but how do you sort of create those stories? Because the power of stories is really, really strong.
Yes.
So where do you get, I suppose, your inspiration from to tell them?
So when I was writing on the criteria of my dream motivational speaking career, which is still ever evolving, one thing I learned from Jim Rohn was also write down the criteria of your dream life. So I said I wanted to be world class. That's the first thing. So I set that standard from a young age. And people don't realize there were times and times and times where I was practicing motivational speaking alone in my room in front of the mirror, looking like a crazy man, number one. And number two, repetition is the mother of all learning. When I set that standard, I remember Les Brown sharing a story of how he would wake up and go and write down 99 motivational speaking quotes and memorize that and ensconce that in his brain. So I picked up those habits as well. I would wake up in the morning, I would listen to Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and I would go and writing down exactly what he's saying word for word and practicing every single day. And it just comes natural, second nature to you.
So a lot of your work, it will come onto the corporate side, but a lot of your work is about engaging with young people. I know you do a lot of work going into schools and talking with sort of young people. How do you get the right tone and the right voice when you're talking to such young people?
Yeah. Firstly, I'm 25 years old. I'm a rock star. You know what I'm saying? So I just keep it real. Remember, I'll tell you one thing. I only started doing school tours because when I was in secondary school, a company did a school tour, and I swore if I was to ever do something like that, I want to replicate that same emotion that I felt, right? Being someone in year 8 who was sleeping on the floor next to the fridge. I remember when the head teacher told us to come down to the school hall, and we had a celebrity come and speak to us, and we had music, and it was such an amazing atmosphere. And I was looking around, I was like, wow, this is awesome. And especially coming from Nigeria, I never experienced something like that. So I find psychologically, firstly, I had to create the right atmosphere, right? Bring in influences that young people can relate to, that they can get sparked and excited about. Then I infuse that with the motivational speaking, and then put them back into a reality that they can go out with some practical tools.
And sort of, when you go into the schools and you're talking to young people and groups of young people, what are the things that they're sort of most worried about, and what are the things that they're most positive about in terms of, their future lives?
I feel like many young people are worried about how the grading system affects them in the long term. Right? That's one thing they're worried about, how the grading system affects them in the long term. Because when a teacher tells you that you're not good at something, it actually affects your subconscious mind a lot, right? And many times, as we realize, this universe is all about transferable skills. Just because you might not be good at a specific subject doesn't mean that you are not an excellent, divine, unique, magnificent person with skill sets, with unique abilities that no one else in this universe has. But many teachers don't emphasize on the power of the mind. That's the most thing that happens. So when I go into the schools and I help the young child understand that they are powerful, that they can overcome any setbacks, any failures, that they are unique creatures at such a young age, hearing those profound messages over and over again can really make that difference. And I suppose what young people are more excited about is the ability to make money, right? We live in a generation where everything's a lot more instant. I have friends who are millionaires at the age of 17, 18, 19, right? And many young people now are focused on how can I make money at such a young age? How can I improve myself? And how can I take massive action and live my dreams?
So alongside of that, there's a big conversation at the moment around actually where do values fit in, particularly with corporate organizations in terms of, because these organizations can make a lot of money. So where do you sort of manage to sort of slot the values piece about actually it's profit with a purpose?
I think that I got that from my mentor, my first mentor, Iqbal Wahab. Everything he did was always purpose driven. He actually, funny, made a hilarious book called Charity Sucks, because it was like, he doesn't really believe in charity. He really believes in every business should do good. And that's how you do charity, right? I remember when I quite young, at his luxurious restaurant called Roast, there was always a series of tables that they were the most expensive tables that you could eat on and dine on, but all of that money goes to charity or goes for a cause. And he would also employ ex-prisoners. I remember actually interviewing ex-prisoners and going to speak at Brixton Clink, right? Yeah, you know, and to see, and he would hire ex-prisoners. So these kind of things affected my mind. And for number one, if me and a company's values don't align, we don't work together. It's not just about the money.
And in terms of how old people like me can sort of engage with young people, what would your advice be to me if I'm looking to have a conversation with them?
Be yourself. Like, a lot of young people are not as arrogant and rude as many people might think. Be yourself and put yourself back in time. Not necessarily a time. We relate with emotions, right? So put yourself in an emotional state and try and connect with the emotion that you are trying to let them feel, rather than focusing on yourself as an age, because we are spiritual beings, right? And obviously, keep it fun and entertaining. You know, this is where your speaking techniques come, your tonality, you know, your body language, because if they sense fear, they will roast you, right? So you got to be confident in what you're doing.
I've got a teenage son, and he's very much in that vein, I suppose. So obviously, a lot of your stuff is in the physical space. You know, I've seen you perform, and you can hold the audience in a large room around this. So how have you had to adapt to this COVID lockdown world in terms of trying to deliver what you're doing?
Do you know what? It hasn't changed anything. Matter of fact, the only thing I'll say is change is delivering live events, right? That's pretty much it. But prior to this, I'm part of an organization. I have a partnership company, and we provide online education systems that help teach people how to invest in the financial markets, that help people how to become e-commerce entrepreneurs. So we have been giving Zoom call presentations for the last 4 years. So I do so much Zoom calls, it feels like normal. So the only difference is we can't do live events. Apart from that, you know, it feels quite natural to me, keeping it real.
So turning to our sector in the social housing space, which I know you're sort of familiar with, what if your message was to these big organizations in the social housing space, what do you think we could be doing more to make a difference with young people?
Directly go and ask them what they're experiencing. When I was sleeping on the floor next to the fridge in secondary school, I did that for years, year 8, year 9, year 10, year 11, first year college, second year college. So that's 6 years of sleeping on the floor in one room. No organization asked me what was my living conditions. No one knew I was sleeping right next to molds growing on the walls. No one knew that. No one knew I had nine other people living in a 2-bedroom apartment. No one knew that. And if I didn't have the resilience and just the inspiration and the courage to keep going, regardless of what people were telling me, regardless of the peer pressure, regardless of social media, I would have probably done things that I shouldn't have done to change my situation. And that's what a lot of young people do. And then we end up blaming them rather than blaming the system that has been set up that is not as effective as it could be. So go to those particular places. If it's a secondary school, go and do a survey, or get someone who can facilitate an entertaining, engaging survey, which I've done for companies like Barclays, or go to colleges and go to and ask these direct questions like, how are you living? What's the setup at home? And enable them to understand that it's private, it's confidential, but it's here to help them.
Brilliant advice there, Richard. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll charge you extra for that.
One of the areas I wanted to explore with you was, we're now in an era where everybody has a voice, whether it's on social media or through face-to-face. So how do you ensure that the right voices get heard? Because it can be so easy to get sort of swamped, and people who shout the loudest get the engagement, and other people lose out.
I just feel like, who is that question based for? Is that for consumer or creator?
Well, I think it's from a customer's perspective, or somebody who uses the service that's out there. So how do you ensure you get to listen to the right voices when you're trying to make, big changes, for example?
Yeah, great question. I feel like it's very important to listen to the right person. Extremely important. I listen to a handful select of individuals, right? And I look for people who had proven results, people who were authentic and true to themselves, and people who inspire me to think 59 million times bigger than I'm currently thinking now. You can sense bullcrap from a mile away. You really, really can. Like, I think the reason why, we are having this conversation is, regardless of what I've accomplished or what I've not accomplished, I'm authentic to myself. We don't need to lie and fake about anything. It is what it is, right? No one's perfect. We're all making progress. Even my mentors, my billionaire mentors who I watch, they have mistakes, right? So it's all about, number one, identifying what are you trying to actually get from the content you're listening to, or where are you at right now in life, right? And where are you trying to go to? Now go and actually do research on someone who's actually accomplished that and focus on their material. One of the great things that one of my mentors says, a guy called Grant Cardone, is if you listen to too many people, it's going to be a conflict of action. Because one of my mentors is always about take massive action every single day, take massive action. And other guys are like, work a 4-hour week. You can become successful working 4 hours a week. What is your goal and what's your dream, man? What can you be consistent at? So go and find that role model and take massive action on the content.
And sort of come towards the end of the chat, Richard, I think one of the big things that we're talking about now is how we build post-COVID organizations or post-pandemic organizations, and the chance to sort of, build better ways of working and better environments for people. So we are looking at more inclusive organizations. Is there any organizations or people who you work with who you really hold up as, actually, these guys really get what inclusivity and diversity is about?
I would say my mentee's company, it's an organization called Word of Mouth. There's a guy called Samuel Ogasaga. He is 22 now. And firstly, to have a celebratory online platform that congratulates and empowers people who are doing awesome things, number one, I think is so important. Number two, they help people get into apprenticeship schemes and internship schemes and grad scheme jobs, which I think is phenomenal. And also, they also help companies, create a more diverse atmosphere. And not only create a more diverse atmosphere, they also facilitate infrastructures that enable companies to attract diversity. They help companies understand the importance of having a diverse platform. And they also create a training that helps companies manage and help these people from diverse backgrounds flourish. And I think that's awesome, especially created from a young guy in South London, working with Tesco's, it's Pearson's, it's amazing. So that's the company that I really like.
Okay, well, perhaps that's a future DINCast for us then, Richard. So final question then. So what's next for Here with Richard then? What's your ambitions as we go forward?
I'm just excited to love myself as an individual. I'm excited to forgive myself as an individual. For my successes, I'm excited to celebrate my successes, and for my setbacks, I'm excited to look at those in unique ways. Like even today, when I woke up, I was just ruminating on the word perspective, because everything's perspective. You know, I'm excited to still be number one motivational speaker in my generation. I'm excited to be one of the best speakers in the world. I'm excited to have the best motivational school experiences in the world. I'm excited to, you know, provide, you know, give people access to digital entrepreneurship coaching that they can use to become financially successful. And as an entrepreneur as well, I'm venturing into new things. I'm into mining now. Working with government officials now. We are, you know, working with gold and diamonds, and it's like, whoa. I've gone from speaking about, you know, talking about millions to hundreds of millions and crazier numbers, but even the impact now, because when you're doing things like mining, when you're going to a country, you're going to have to create schools and hospitals and roads. So it's like my leadership skills are having to be tested now, and I'm realizing on a day-to-day basis. But that's just Richard as an entrepreneur. But for here with Richard as a speaker, I'm just excited to just take massive action and be more consistent with my level of action, because I really love what I do, and I believe I'm good at it. And I just hope that, you know, my story and my being authentic can in some way or some sort inspire another person to take massive action on their dreams, regardless of where they come from.
I think without doubt, you're going to be inspiring lots of people for many, many years to come, Richard. So thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed it. I've smiled all the way through it. I know you have as well, sir. Yeah. And hopefully I look forward to sort of doing some more work with you in the social housing space in the future. Thank you.
Yeah, let's make it happen, man. God bless you.